Netflix versus HBO, Tim Stevens on Apple's new self-driving car project Pivot. Denise Howell talks about biometric privacy. And do selfies make you happier? All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1621, recorded Monday, October 17th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT.
And by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/TNT and enter promo code TNT.
And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now, enter the promo code TNT, and you can receive a free Tracker Bravo with any purchase. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about everything that happens in technology today, maybe a little yesterday. I am Megan Morrone.
I'm Jason Howell. Yeah, probably a little bit yesterday because, man, it was one of those days where it was like fighting to find all of the tech news. I mean, there's some of it there, but some of it's not big, and you want it to all be big sometimes.
I know, the stupid dumb election's really getting in the way, like, politics, news.
I know, it's too bad that that's going to last forever and it's not going to be done at the end of the month-ish. Or actually, it will hopefully die down at the beginning of next month.
Hope it does.
Because I've hit this point now where I'm like, maybe I need to take a sabbatical from social media because I just get too worked up with everything that's happening right now. It's too much. I just want to focus on technology, and that's what we're going to do today.
Okay.
Tesla's autopilot function has seen its fair share of scrutiny, and the German transport minister, Alexander Dobrindt, has asked Tesla to change the name of the feature to help with consumer understanding of the purpose of the feature. His ministry called for the term autopilot, basically called autopilot misleading when the feature is merely a driver assistance system and not a fully automated control of the vehicle. That could imply that drivers can, reduce their own awareness while they're using it. Tesla justified the term in response, stating that aerospace has used the term for decades and that the company made it clear from the start that drivers should always pay attention while using this feature. Basically, KBA, which is kind of the German Transport Association, sent a letter to Tesla owners reiterating that drivers are required to provide constant attention to the road. I don't know. This really comes down to consumer misunderstanding. What do you think?
I think it's a misnamed. I mean, I think that Tesla was trying, it's like ludicrous mode. They were trying to be funny. Like, they were trying to be hyperbolic. It's autopilot. But, when you're dealing with people's safety, and I get, it's been used in the airline industry for decades. But, it's a little harder to become an airline pilot than it is to get a driver's license. Also, more things to hit while you're driving a car than when you're flying a plane. So, you do need to be paying attention. And I think that Tesla's like cutesy, stuff got them, Elon Musk's cutesy stuff got him a little bit in trouble here and dealt with people's lives. So I think, they should call it something else.
Yeah, I think directing it towards the the function in aerospace, I understand why that's Tesla's position, and maybe I understand why they named it this. But what I don't get about that is that I would say the majority of people don't actually know what autopilot means in airplane. They think they know, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, maybe they, I don't even know exactly what the extent is of autopilot in the airplane. So to name it that and say, well, people should know what it means because it's been in airplanes for years and years. None of us have ever flown an airplane. So how are we going to know the extent to which autopilot actually takes over all functions of the plane? Maybe it does, but I think people all have different understanding of what that means. And so it's going to create confusion just for that reason alone.
I think so. I mean, I don't think that that's just what their lawyers are saying.
Right.
Like, well, they use it in the planes. So,
right.
Yeah. Ina Fried at ReCode says Apple has hired AI expert Russ Salakhutdinov, whose work focuses on neural networks, voice, and image recognition. The new hire tweeted that he would be joining Apple as a director of AI research. and he would continue his job as a professor of deep learning at Carnegie Mellon University. He's also looking to hire some machine learning specialists, because who isn't looking to hire machine learning specialists these days? He even posted the job posting. So if you're interested, you should definitely check it out. I think it's key, and I'm guessing that Apple probably helped him or approved this tweet, key that he's saying, I'm staying at Carnegie Mellon, because that's the complaint that Uber and other big companies are getting. They're just bleeding the life out of these universities, taking all of their AI researchers and using them for their corporations. So I think they were being careful about that. I'm still going to be a professor, don't worry. So yeah, I mean, they need to, I think they need to do better in AI. Apple does. And I think part of the problem that they've been having is they are a secretive company. They don't like to share information, and AI research is based on sharing their research with other people, and that's how we learn. So
yeah, I mean, Walt Mossberg at ReCode had that big article about, kind of putting his stamp down, saying Siri is horrible when it comes to AI. So, I mean, obviously, Apple has a lot of work to do in comparison with some of the other competitors. I find what's interesting about this is just kind of the challenge that seems to be looming for universities. They've created all of this incredibly knowledgeable, talented staff to teach students, to run research for the schools and everything like that. And then technology is just getting, technology companies are just getting rich to the point to where the thing that they need, there is no dollar amount that is too high for them to do this. And so, you mentioned Uber, for example. They had a research pact with Carnegie Mellon last year, and then followed that up earlier this year by hiring away 4 of the faculty and 36 robotics researchers and technicians from Carnegie Mellon, which just shatters the trust of something, of this type of relationship, and just goes to show how it's kind of like the technology companies are somewhat leech-like. They move in, they find the thing they need, and they just leech it right out. And they're like, well, and I mean, I guess that's just the way the free market works. So you can't be too critical of that, I guess. But it's just kind of unfortunate for the places that we send, our people to get smarter. It's not as easy when they're all being pulled away.
True.
Samsung isn't just a phone company with battery issues. Oh no, it's also a chip company. They just announced the new Exynos 7 dual 7270 chip for wearable devices. For starters, it's the first 14 nanometer, I never know how to say that, nanometer wearable processor, up from 28 nanometers before it. That makes it much smaller in scale. And not only does the chip manage Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS on board, it's also packing support for LTE. And that ultimately, altogether, just kind of paves the way for a smaller footprint, or actually wrist print smartwatches that can connect to mobile networks without the need for an entirely separate LTE chip taking up all of that space inside.
Have you ever had an LTE smartwatch?
No, and I've never really felt like I needed that in my smartwatch. I mean, there's very few of them, to be honest. The only one that comes to mind is the the Urbane LTE. Yeah. And I don't know, it just seems, personally, it seems unnecessary to me. I mean, I suppose there are applications where it might be useful if and maybe that's in the exercise fitness realm of things, but I always have my phone on me. So I don't care if it I don't really care if it tethers, if that's going to give me better battery life, let's say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is good for people who want smaller smartwatches. They want to use their watch as a phone. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I know that, like we've said this before, Samsung is a huge company, but I do feel like every time I read a Samsung story now, I feel like I've lost a little bit of trust in them in general. Not just the fact that the phone, the Note 7 catastrophe, but how they handled it. How they tried to cover it up, how they did their testing. So I don't know. I'm just like, okay, well, great, you have a new chip. Congratulations, Samsung.
Megan is not impressed, not amused, Samsung. I mean, the fact that they have a 14 nanometer processor, I mean, that thing is small and it does a lot. So I guess where the disconnect comes from me, aside from all the battery stuff, actually has to do with battery. So maybe it does kind of tie in at least a little bit, is just the fact that consumers in wearables want a lot. I'll correct that. Think they want all of these things. But really, the reality of that doesn't match up to it, right? Like in order to be able to do all of these things, that's more processor intensive, therefore that's more battery intensive. So what we want is this small form factor watch that does all of these things, but still small, but still very good battery. And you just can't have all of that. Now this shrinks this down smaller, so maybe that makes room for a little bit larger of a battery, let's say, but I don't know if that's significant enough to get the footprint down to a point where everybody gets everything that they want. It's just not where we're at right now with battery technology and these small devices.
Yeah, and also like wearables are just not what everyone thought they were going to be too.
Yeah.
You know, no one's rushing to buy even the Apple Watch, which is the most popular wearable. So I don't know. It just seems to me like they were looking for something to release to say, look what we've done.
And quick, let's get this out there now. Let's change the narrative a little bit.
Well, Netflix reported third quarter earnings today with 86.74 million current subscribers. The company added 3.57 global customers. 3.57 million global customers. They added 3.57 customers.
I'm one of those.
You only put 5.7. And that was just in the last quarter. And they expect to add more than 5 million new accounts just over the next 3 months. The stock is up more than 20% in extended trading in response to today's earnings report. So, you know, Netflix, obviously we talk about it a lot. It's really growing. They had a little bit of a speed bump when they raised their prices, but then, you know, those of us who had been on the service for a long time were grandfathered in, but then, you know, then we got grandfathered out as you were. Like we had to end up paying, you know, whatever it is, I'm happy paying for it. And it is not too much. There's so much content. I mean, they talk about like Stranger Things and Narcos were like big for them. A lot of people wanted to watch those shows.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you look at like HBO, which has Westworld, which I love and is a great show, but like you can see how sort of desperate HBO is to keep up with Netflix. You know, like they have to have a show like that. They have to have something as big as Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones has an ending like that, you know, it's not going to last forever. Whereas if you look at what Netflix has, they have so much for so many different people. And I think that the other people like HBO should be afraid.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix and their plan is to just continue ramping this up faster and faster and faster. What Netflix started doing a couple of years ago when they started doing the exclusives is they started to kind of tackle the criticism that was, well, Netflix never has a library of movies that I actually really want to watch. It's all, you know, movies from the 80s and 90s and blah, blah, blah. But what they've done is they've really kind of targeted themselves, painted themselves into being this like HBO for people who don't have cable. And their content is quality enough to stand up to that statement and time and time again. So a $1 price hike comes along. Of course, people get up in arms because nobody likes change. But ultimately, it didn't seem to affect really much of anything at all. You know, it's still only $9.99 and feels, I think, in a lot of people's mind, perfectly justifiable when you have shows like Stranger Things and these other really, you know, successful shows coming out proving the quality of their original content, which I think at this point is almost surpassing the other stuff that they have and making it more compelling for that reason. You just happen to get the other stuff thrown in. Yeah.
I mean, Reed Hastings, the CEO, said, you know, because we're not even talking about like movies, you know, in the movie theaters, because I mean, that's also what Netflix is killing. You know, he's blames distribution itself. He was quoted saying movie theaters are strangling the movie business, you know, so it's their fault that we're, you know, not seeing better movies in the theaters. And, you know, we talked a couple weeks ago that they're going to start showing some Netflix movies in a few theaters. So that is going to be their, I guess, next thing to conquer.
Yep. And I wonder if down the line, how much of a story it becomes or how much of an issue it becomes as far as a threat to Netflix, not competing studios, not competing companies or whatever, but like data caps, because we're kind of, you know, so I mean, Netflix relies on that data, whatever, you know, your data plan is that you have at home or on your device or whatever. It's incumbent on you having enough to support all of that streaming content. And as we move higher res and all that kind of stuff, are our data caps going to keep up with the demands of something like Netflix? And if it butts up against that, that could potentially slow things down if it happens to a lot of people.
That is a good point. Because, I mean, you think about Apple, such like a wonderful, huge company that just keeps rolling in money. And then, but then you think, okay, how many more iPhones are people going to buy? You know, like there's got to be an end. But like, there's no end to content itself. Like there's no, like this is what Reed Hastings also said, there's no content bubble. Like we're not going to pop and suddenly like, you know what, I don't want to watch anything else anymore. Like that's not going to happen. We will always want our Stranger Things and our Westworld, and we'll pay for whoever will give them to us. But yeah, I mean, it's true that's where the block is. Like, can we, you know, will the streaming keep up with our data?
For sure. Just in time for those making holiday travel arrangements, Google has improved Google Flights to let users know when a given price is expected to expire and or go up, so users can snap up those good deals before it's too late. Users will also get a countdown to the next price fluctuation, as well as the price that it's expected to jump to, just kind of proving even more that, man, so much of this seems random behind the scenes, but there's actually a lot of data behind it. Google's also recommending alternate routes and dates when a user punches in a destination in an attempt to, you know, save the most money, basically, based on historical data. That last part kind of reminds me of a little bit of one of my favorite features in navigation, where you're going along and then it decides, oh, well, actually, we could save you 10 minutes if we route you over here. And that's actually a really good, if you have flexibility in your schedule, that's actually a really great thing to have access to in an app like this, I suppose.
Yeah, there seems to be nothing wrong with this. I would love to have this. What I'm wondering is how they get around, you know, the airlines, because like a lot of the airlines didn't want to give this data. Like that was a lot of these apps were running up into trouble because they weren't releasing. They didn't want, you know, that's how they make their money, by, you know, charging people more by the time of day that they reserve the flight and all that, you know. So I just wonder how they got around there. And anyone who has like an app like, you know, Hopper or Hipmunk, or is that what it's called? Hipmunk? Hipmunk? Yeah, Hipmunk. Yeah. Like all those, I feel like they, this would be scary to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what probably drives it with Google Flights has to be just the data and analysis that they've done over time to know what those fluctuations are going to be. You know, this time of year, however many flights, you know, jumped up, jumped down, whatever. I don't know if it's necessarily based on information that they have streaming in from the airlines themselves, as far as like future historical guesses that they're making. But I mean, Google is a big data company, has access to a lot of data points from all over, you know, so companies, you know, you mentioned their competitors. I mean, who has more of this type of information or you know, the computing behind the scenes to churn out all possible combinations of this information than Google? So yeah, the competitors should probably be a little bit worried about that.
Well, Apple is rebranding its rumored car business, but it may be too late for them to catch up. Tim Stevens from CNET's Roadshow is here to give us his thoughts. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, the sponsor of this episode. Gathering all the paperwork for a mortgage and traveling all over town to sign the papers can really put a damper on the new home buying process, but Rocket Mortgage brings that mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, it's powerful, and completely online. Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. With Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button, helping you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this from your phone or your tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. This service really puts the power back into your hands so you can get a rocket-fast closing where you want, when you want. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. Mark Gurman at Bloomberg says Apple's Project Titan is pivoting. Titan is, of course, the rumored car project that's been in the works since 2014. Gurman says the new vision no longer involves Apple building its own car, but rather a self-driving car platform. CNET Roadshow's Tim Stevens has his own thoughts on the topic and joins us today. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Good. So everything we know about Project Titan is rumors at this point.
Everything we know.
Yeah, which makes this a bit of a weird story to cover because nothing has ever been confirmed about any of this. So we're kind of piling speculation on top of speculation. But as you mentioned, this comes from Mark Gurman, which is about as good a source as you can get.
So it's like, we're some of this we're just creating. But tell us your thoughts on the self-driving car platform from Apple based on these rumors.
Right. So Project Titan was reportedly Apple wanting to build their own car, and they wanted it to be a fully autonomous car. But according to these reports, they've ultimately determined that building a car is harder than they thought it was going to be. Surprise, surprise. So according to this latest report, they're pivoting now to develop an autonomous car solution that they could use potentially in their own car in the future, but more likely be able to go to other manufacturers and sell to them so that they could basically accelerate their own autonomousness. So basically go to GM, go to Chevy, go to Ford, and say, hey, here's our autonomous car platform, pay us money, you can plug it in your car, and you'll be good to go. The problem with this is all those manufacturers are already spending millions and millions, if not billions of dollars in developing their own autonomous solutions. So I'm a little bit skeptical that any of them are really going to want to go and piggyback with Apple here when they've all been working on this stuff for years already.
So are there any car makers that you would imagine that they could work with right now?
There are definitely some smaller manufacturers that haven't made the big investment. Manufacturers, I mentioned Subaru in an editorial that I wrote today, basically is an example of a smaller company that doesn't have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to invest in this kind of research. And so it might need a little bit of a helping hand. But even for those companies, there are already companies like Delphi and Mobileye that are developing their own independent autonomous solutions that they could work with and partner. And companies like Subaru already have partnerships with companies like Delphi. So again, it's a little bit difficult for me to imagine Apple really kind of nosing into this space and finding a lot of success unless they can come up with something that's truly revolutionary.
So along the way, there have been all these little breadcrumbs that are dropped, and this has been happening now, especially in the last year. I feel like that's really ramped up, to lead us to where we're at right now, and it seems to be coming full circle. One report, I think it was back in April, was that Tesla VP of Vehicle Engineering, former Aston Martin chief engineer Chris Porritt was brought in, was hired by Apple to work on. I mean, one could only imagine working on this project in some way, shape, or form. I mean, if it's a pivot. If it is such a thing as what we're seeing here is a pivot, I mean, would that affect kind of the working relationship with someone in that stature? I mean, coming in possibly to work on some big new beefed up, bulky, car, and instead, we're just gonna work on software. It's cool, but we could still really use your help.
Yeah, definitely. That puts a lot of those people that they poached and made very enticing offers to come to work in Cupertino. That puts them in a very uncomfortable situation because they were brought on board to build one thing. And if you are, for example, a vehicle dynamics engineer, somebody who works on suspension, if you're not building a car anymore, then that person really isn't needed anymore. So that's why we're hearing about a lot of layoffs and ultimately a lot of people just up and quitting because their jobs really aren't needed. I've definitely heard from people in the industry who would never go on the record, but who were approached by Apple to come on board and to basically do some work to help to develop an actual car. And some of them went for it, some of them didn't. But ultimately, those that did now are in a really uncomfortable situation. But the good news is there's a lot of automotive R&D going on in the Silicon Valley area. So companies like Nissan and Ford and GM all have some sort of an R&D facility in the area. So if somebody does need to leave Apple, they've got plenty of places to go. But it definitely creates an unfortunate situation where people who were brought on board, who are given very enticing offers to come to Apple, now may find themselves not needed there at all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any guesses as to why it's not working out? Like what went wrong there?
I'm guessing there are, as always, a variety of factors that are kind of coming together. But ultimately, building a car is a really difficult thing. And that's one of the reasons I was very skeptical about this to begin with, because it just seemed like a crazy thing for Apple to want to get into. It's a hard thing to do. Safety regulations are incredibly complex, especially as you're looking at a car that you want to release globally. And the profit margins on these things are really slim. If you're making 10% on a car, you're doing really good. And that's really not the kind of numbers that Apple is looking for. So it didn't really seem to make sense to me in the beginning. But, as we heard more and more, it was looking more and more likely. But it didn't look like it was going to be any easier. And so Apple now I think they've realized that ultimately they're not going to get where they want to be when they want to be there, which again was by about 2020. And so they're trying to now, I think, come up with other solutions or other things that they can do with this pool of resources that they've gathered together. And I think this is the next best path that they think that they can go down and finally make some money off of this.
So So earlier we were talking about how they just hired an AI expert, and that some of the troubles that they've had with AI is that, they're such a secretive company and they don't share. And, so do you think that's part of the problem here? Like, do you see a lot of sharing among the big companies when it comes to autonomous driving technology?
There actually is an unfortunately a limited amount of sharing going on. There are very few places in the world where companies are testing their autonomous cars together. There's a place called M-City in Michigan, which is on the University of Michigan campus, where manufacturers can come together and test their cars together. But even so, very rarely do they actually do so. Still, this is largely considered to be top secret stuff. Google is probably the main exception. They're very public in terms of what they're doing and how they're developing and giving us very, very good transparency into what they're up to. But everybody else is really keeping their cards pretty close to their chest. Even companies like Ford that are relatively open with the number of cars that they have and the sort of technologies on the cars, we don't really get frequent updates from them how that testing is going. So, certainly Apple's been very, very closed door with what they're working on, not even confirming that this stuff exists. But definitely there's a lot of proprietary testing going on. As these manufacturers, they kind of want to do it themselves. They want autonomy to be kind of a standalone feature or a standout feature for them that they can use to market their cars as being better and safer and more advanced than others. And for that reason, they don't really want to work together. They want to do it on their own. They want to come up with a better solution than anybody else. And everybody's convinced that they can do that. So obviously not everyone's going to be able to do that. But there is a lot of, unfortunately, proprietary technologies that are being developed out of all this.
So you say that there's an easier way forward possibly for them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think ultimately Apple really should just refocus and redesign the interior of cars. We've seen some really cool stuff coming out of CarPlay and Android Auto, and that's a good first step. But auto interiors are a lot more complicated than they need to be, and they're a lot more, again, proprietary than they need to be. And when the iPhone came out, it wasn't really what the phone could do, but it was how it could do it. And if Apple could bring that kind of fresh perspective to the idea of an in-car infotainment system, replace the syncs and the cues and all the other horrible touchscreen interfaces that we have in cars today, replace them with something that's truly intuitive and truly a pleasure to use, that I think would be something that auto manufacturers would actually be really eager to partner up with Apple on, versus this kind of technology that all of these manufacturers are already doing on their own and already convinced that they're doing better than anybody else. So I think if they were to bring the Apple experience to the dashboard and really bring together everything from your media to your climate control settings in your car to enabling your cruise control to everything else, that I think could be something special and something that Apple could really dominate on, versus this really, really competitive and difficult field of autonomy, which is, again, something that everyone is working on already.
Well, Tim Stevens is the editor-in-chief or editor-at-large from CNET Roadshow, and Tim_Stevens on Twitter. And if you really want to know about everything Tim has done, you can check out the interview I did with Tim. It's at twit.tv/triangulation. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Tim. All right, Ed Riley writes about one of our shows last week. It says, Kurt and Roberto are excellent guests, as well as being informed and bright. They both have that wonderful, dry sense of humor that you have to listen for to fully appreciate. He says, because I don't typically go into the Amazon Echo app, I particularly appreciated Roberto's reminder that the Echo will record the context anytime it thinks it hears its trigger word. That's one good reason not to make that one's safe word.
True. You should not use that as your safe word.
I only got that at the very end.
I know. I put that in there. I was like, oh, I should warn you. Yeah, we won't have any more discussion of our safe words.
Nah,
but
we don't
probably,
need that.
you know the word. Probably don't use it as your safe word. Horrible things could happen.
Up next, we'll discuss security in the age of fingerprint authentication. But first, let's take a minute to thank Casper, the sponsor of this episode. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing the savings directly to the consumer. Many benefits of Casper. Casper's mattress is an obsessively engineered mattress at a fair price. It actually combines two technologies, springy latex foam and then a nice supportive memory foam. Both together creates an award-winning sleep service. Just the right sink, just the right bounce. It's going to feel really great for you. The Casper mattress is a 2016 Business Intelligence Group Innovation Award winner. Casper mattress provides long-lasting comfort, long-lasting support. It's breathable, So you're going to sleep cool, and it's going to help you regulate your temperature throughout the night. I got a new Casper mattress. Man, I got at this point probably a couple of years ago, and since then we bought another one for one of our kids' rooms. We're planning to buy another one for our other daughter's room because they're just super comfortable. The kids just end up wanting to sleep on them anyway, so we might as well get them there. You can buy it easily online and completely risk-free. That's one of the beauties here. You try sleeping on a Casper mattress. Casper understands the importance of truly trying out a mattress that in all reality, you're going to spend a third of your life on these things. So you might as well know for certain you want it. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns within a 100-day period. So you don't have to lie down in a showroom. And if you didn't know, statistically, lying on a bed in a showroom actually has no correlation to whether it's the right bed for you or not. You make that snap decision within a couple of minutes, and then you're stuck with it for a long time. Not the case with Casper. The Casper mattress is engineered to meet the Goldilocks standard, just right, so it's not too hard, not too soft, super comfortable. Casper mattresses uphold the highest environmental production standards and are made in the USA. Free shipping and returns to the US and Canada. Many reasons to check it out for yourself. Get a Casper mattress today, $500 for a twin, all the way up to $950 for a king size. Compared to industry averages, that's an excellent price. You're not going to do much better than that. You can save an additional $50 towards a mattress purchase as one of our audience members by going to casper.com/TNT and entering the promo code TNT. That's casper.com/TNT with promo code TNT. Terms and conditions apply, and we thank Casper for their support. All right, earlier this year, the FBI fought hard to gain access to the encrypted iPhone belonging to a terrorist in San Bernardino, and now it appears we've seen another big step toward that pursuit of access. Joining us to discuss this is Denise Howell from This Week in Law. How's it going, Denise?
It's going great. Hi, Jason.
Hi. It's good to see you, too. So start, I guess, by telling us a little bit about what Forbes found in this court filing from earlier in May.
What they found was a legal argument in support of the issuance of the warrant that they had asked for under federal criminal procedure. So there's a lot of backstory here that I find just really, really fascinating. First and foremost being that Forbes is going through the federal dockets in Lancaster, California, or the federal court that governs Lancaster, California, to just suss things like this out. I mean, even though this was way back in May, the fact that they found it at all is sort of a miracle. Sure. It just tells you how important journalism is and journalists are in finding these things out. Because if Forbes hadn't investigated this, no one would know that this warrant had been requested and issued.
So basically what's at issue here is this idea that a warrant was issued to come in and essentially collect the fingerprints of everyone in order to gain access to all of these phones to justify the warrant itself. I don't know. Maybe you can do a better job.
It is sort of circular. What the government asked for here. They had probable cause for a search warrant, or they argued they had probable cause. They were granted their warrant. And part of their request here, though, was to, as you say, go in and take fingerprints of everyone on the premises so that not only could the government agents seize the devices that were on the premises, but they could unlock them if they were locked. And the argument in favor of that was, well, we have reason to believe there could be evidence relevant to our investigation on these devices, and we need to be able to unlock them. And they go into some detail about how various phones work and why they might be locked if you don't have the fingerprint. And so they actually got a court to sign off on this and issue a warrant that would have required everyone in these premises to give a fingerprint to unlock whatever devices were associated with them. It's strange. Forbes reports that they think it's the first time this sort of warrant has ever been granted. It's hard to know that or not, since we live in this adversarial legal system where a prosecutor might not know whether a court would find this constitutional or not, a violation of the Fourth Amendment or not, and might just go into court and send up a balloon and see if it flew. This one flew.
So do we know, did they make the people unlock their phones or they just took their fingerprints? Do we know that much?
We don't even know if they took their fingerprints. We know that the warrant was served. We don't know what happened after that. We don't even know what crime was being investigated here. The entire file, according to all the reports I've read, was otherwise under seal, not available for public consumption. So all we know is that a warrant was issued and the various legal arguments were submitted in support of the warrant. And that's what Forbes reported on, was the memorandum of points and authorities that convinced the court that the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment were not being violated here by asking for fingerprints from the people. Now, a lot of legal advocates think the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment were certainly in play, and it really points out the fact that you really don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of like the Forrest Gump problem. If you do get a prosecutor who decides to send up a trial balloon and see what they get from a judge, you need folks either like the EFF, or you need savvy people on the receiving end of these warrants to come in and say, hey, we're going to challenge this legally because we think it's overbroad and unconstitutional. And unfortunately, this was somebody's residence. All we know from the Forbes report is they said this never should have happened. We shouldn't have been served with a warrant. We were under investigation unfairly. We don't know any of the facts to check that story or the government's. But that's what they say. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they had the legal wherewithal or the know-how to reach out to people who might have challenged that warrant and pushed back on what the government asked for and got here.
Now, stories like this kind of, it always kind of comes around to explaining, at least in technology discussions around what's actually happening here, the difference between being compelled to unlock a device with a PIN versus being compelled to unlock a device with barometric data, like a fingerprint. Can you explain kind of the legal ramifications of why there are differences there?
Yes, and I'll clarify. You meant biometric data.
Or biometrics. Sorry. No.
Talking about
very different. Thank you.
So, yes. Yes, there's a difference, and you might, if you do a little Googling on it, you might find stories telling you definitely don't lock your phone or don't rely on locking your phone with a fingerprint because that's much more subject to being forced to turn over if someone goes to court. And yes, with a caveat. The caveat is courts are still getting their arms around all this. We have a split from state courts, federal courts, grappling with what you have to turn over and when. I mean, I think it's probably safe to say in the articles you'll find if you do that Googling, or probably it's not bad advice to say that you should definitely secure, if you're concerned about keeping the information on a device, whether it's a computer or a phone or anything else, that you can unlock one of two ways, biometrically or with a code. A code is probably more likely to give you a little bit more runway in a legal investigation, because something that relates to your body is not something that you know, and courts make that distinction. Again, it's not universal. There's not a whole lot of clarity on this, but you're more likely to have to turn over something like a blood sample or a fingerprint than you are something that you know under the Fifth Amendment, which is more likely to be viewed as something that's self-incriminating. And that's what the Fifth Amendment bars.
So one of the things about this Forbes story that really caught me was that they talked to the EFF, who said, not only should the feds have had a warrant that's, says they could come in, but says exactly what they're looking for, or the warrant that says they can look on people's phones, but the warrant should say what they're looking for, and then there should be a way just to look at that part of the phone. I mean, is that something that you've seen talked about how like we could possibly say, well, oh yes, you can only look at my text messages, but you can't look at my photos, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes to what I was talking about earlier. If the EFF hadn't been involved in this case, or if the people who were facing the warrant had the ability to bring in a lawyer, maybe it's not the EFF, who could fight the warrant and contest it as overbroad, that's what they would have argued. They would have said, look, you need to limit this down. We don't know what you're on a fishing expedition. We don't know what you're looking for. You haven't said what you're looking for. You're just saying that you think it might be there. So give us something more concrete first and foremost, so that we know that it's even worthwhile. And secondly, yes, as you and the EFF lawyer who spoke to Forbes pointed out, there's lots of material stored on phones, people's contacts, their photographs, whatever, that might be relevant to an investigation or might be completely off limits. And if it's getting into material that is not actually needed for the investigation, someone could make the argument that, yes, that it should be walled off and not examined.
Got it. Well, Denise Howell, always a pleasure getting you on the show. Thanks for coming on to tell everyone about this story. And obviously, you're all over the network as well. You've got This Week in Law, twit.tv/twill. And where can people follow you online?
At denisehowell.info. Thanks so much, you guys.
Excellent.
Great to chat with you.
Thank you, Denise. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
TNT's fan of the day is M. Would like to just be referred to as M. He sent us the greatest email. It was definitely one of my favorite emails of the weekend. He wrote, normally I listen to all the Twitch shows and other podcasts. I subscribe on my Moto Surround earbuds streamed through Pocket Cast at 1.7 times speed for my Nexus 6P while going about my workday. I've been wanting to show off how I get to watch the show when I have the time to sit down and watch the video version. This is in a private home cinema with a 32 foot wide screen. 32 feet. It's a lot of feet. Dual 4K cinema projectors for 4K upscale 3D movies, and my favorite 26 channel Dolby Atmos surround sound. I mean, I just love that. That is the best. That you on that screen, and I would love to sit back on that chair. And
I don't need to be that big, though.
No, yeah, you do.
Okay. Okay.
You are. You're that big in our hearts, Jason. And he says, why go to the local crappy theater when I can wait for the movie to come to Bluetooth, Blu-ray, or 4K Vudu streaming? No sticky floors or screaming kids.
That's true.
And then if you talk during the movie, you will be asked to leave. And then he said, wink. And is this the largest screen your head has appeared on?
I have no idea. A lot of people watch and listen to our show. I don't know how large those screens go, but 32 feet, I have to. Oh, mine's the best. Oh, buddy. Oh, it would be so meta is like this, on the movie theater screen. So, hi. I don't know. Probably the largest. I have to imagine 32 feet is pushing it to the outer limit, but you never know. Drive-in movie theater. I aspire for more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, show us your drive-in movie theater that has Jason's face on it. Please just use Jason's. Record a video. Take a picture of yourself, your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it.
That was awesome.
Coming up, science says selfies can make you happier. I don't know if that's true. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. Now, we're all used to losing our possessions. Newsweek reports the average American wastes 55 minutes a day looking for things they own but cannot find. Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past, and I'll tell you how to get one for free. The Tracker Bravo locates misplaced keys, wallets, computers, backpacks, bicycles, even your pet. In just seconds, the coin-sized device is constructed with anodized aluminum for the thinnest, most durable tracking. You can easily attach it to your items via key loop or adhesive. And Tracker is also enabled by Bluetooth LE, so the battery lasts up to 1 year. You can add a laser engraved message to each Tracker Bravo. We have one that has Tech News Today laser engraved on it. Here's what it looks like. You can put your picture on it. You can put Jason's picture on it. So big screen and tiny little tracker. You can personalize your tracker with a custom printed image. Pair a tracker to your iOS or your Android device. Then you can find its precise location with the tap of a button. It's that easy. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at once. You can customize two-way separation alerts so you're notified before you leave your item behind. Now, if you lose your phone, you press the button on the tracker and your phone will ring even if it's on silent. With over 1.5 million devices, Tracker has the largest crowdsourced GPS network in the world, so your lost item will show up on a map even if it's miles away. If you lose your item, the Tracker app records its last known location on a map. Then, when another Tracker user comes within a 100-foot range of your item, you will receive a GPS update of where your item is located. Go to thetracker.com and never lose your possessions again. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you'll get a free Tracker Bravo with your order. That's a free Tracker Bravo with your order. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT, and get your free Tracker Bravo today.
All right, if you're hoping to be happier in life, maybe all you need to do is get over your knee-jerk reaction to selfies and take some. And make sure to smile while you're at it. That's probably the most important part. The University of California, Irvine ran a study where 41 students snapped selfies and then logged their mood over the course of 4 weeks straight. Over the course of that study, students felt happier and more confident, even if that selfie showed a fake smile on their face. So really, I think what they realized probably has less to do with the act of taking a selfie and more to do with just this like regular repeated requirement of smiling, I would imagine.
Or what about just the fact that they go to UC Irvine? Like that would make it happy.
No one that goes to UC Irvine is depressed or sad or unhappy. I don't know. I mean, I guess that makes sense to me. If you portray yourself as happier over time, maybe that has a direct influence over your actual state of being. What do you think?
I mean, I've definitely heard that research that smiling makes you happier. Fake it till you make it, sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Then so I guess what they're saying is like the duck face selfies. Like those don't make you happy. No, don't do those. Or just like posting them, like that doesn't necessarily make other people happy. I would argue that.
The study found, or at least it found on the person posting the selfie, that they felt more connected with their friends and family in doing so.
The poster, not the postee.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know.
I hate to break it to them. Those 95 selfies you just posted on Facebook made me feel less connected to you.
Yeah, it's true.
Cousin Susie. I'm just kidding. I have no cousin Susie.
Called out. I don't know if it's going to make me post any more selfies, but I think I'm happy already. So I'm happy enough. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW and find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
Wherever you are, find the subscribe button when you're listening to our podcast. Subscribe.
And then hit it.
Hit it. Yeah, don't just find it. Hit it, tap it, punch it, do whatever you need to do. Subscribe. And you can find all the ways at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Morrone.
And I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, Brian Burnett, especially for all of that, that fancy work like this. See, this is why Brian's awesome. Thanks to Burke for scrolling words on a screen. Thanks to Kevin for editing always and making us look good. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.